With that, we bring in Brent Sadler, retired Navy captain and former Pentagon official, now a Heritage Foundation senior fellow. Brent, always good to have you with us. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. We hear this debate over this effort overall. I want to play for you a soundbite from Senator Chris Murphy, who in this soundbite is referring to the smaller boats that have been blown up, but I think also references this battle against Venezuelan forces on a number of fronts. Watch this.
The administration had no legal justification for these strikes and had no national security justification. They did admit is that there's no fentanyl coming to the United States from Venezuela. Venezuela is mainly exporting cocaine, but almost all of the cocaine that is coming out of Venezuela into the Caribbean isn't going to the United States, it's going to Europe.
What do you make of Senator Murphy's argument there, Brent?
Yeah, I don't follow the senator's logic on this. I mean, the enemy of the American public is the drug cartels that have been given sanctuary by the narco regime of the Maduro government in Venezuela. And those drugs, cocaine does also kill over 10,000 American citizens in overdoses, as well as the fentanyl. And of course, these gangs that are moving these illicit narcotics in our streets are also attacking any American citizen or police officer or judge that gets in their way as an extension of this narco regime. So the fight's on our streets already. The cartels are the enemy, really, quite frankly, and it's a shared enemy with our partners in Europe as well. And it is a true statement that some of those drugs are going to other places in the United States. But again, to put these cartels out of business and to force them to fight amongst themselves and go extinct or bankrupt, it's going to require cutting them off from their markets, and that's the United States and Europe. And I think we've got quite a wide array of allies and partners that are already involved in these type of operations. I just point the audience's attention to the Joint Interagency Task Force South that's based in Key West, that's been waging an interdiction war against these cartels for many years, going back to the late 80s.
Do you think that President Trump will succeed in pushing Maduro out of power? We've been down this road before with leaders like Maduro and also Assad in Syria, where it felt like their tipping point was imminent. We are also learning by some reporting out there that he's being protected by Cuban forces within Venezuela.
Yeah, I'd probably add Russian and perhaps even Chinese money as also trying to support and protect that regime in Venezuela. Clearly, Venezuela has become a nexus of a lot of illicit activities and funneling large amounts of money to regimes far afield, to include terrorists like Hamas and the IRGC out of Iran, but of course also continuing to provide means at which to provide money on these dark fleet ships to Russia as they wage war in Ukraine. And China, of course, is benefiting and profiteering wherever the chaos that this ill-gotten proceeds are taken from. So it's actually part of a bigger picture. I do think President Trump is taking the right approach. You do not need to go in and force a regime out to force it to change. The Venezuelan people, I think, are fed up with this narco cartel running their country. Certainly, it's completely impoverished all of them since Hugo Chavez's rise to ascendancy and his communist and socialist policies. So the region also, I think, is looking for a change. I think all of the wind is the president's back. The key thing is keep the pressure up and don't try to feel a sense of urgency to go in and attack the regime, because I think that may actually cause more problems than good.
Interesting. This is what Senator Rand Paul says about, any involvement in any form of war or battle against Venezuela. Watch this.
I consider it a provocation and a prelude to war, and I hope we don't go to war with Venezuela. Look, at any point in time, there are 20, 30 governments around the world that we don't like that are either socialist or communist or have human rights violations. We could really literally go through a couple dozen, but it isn't the job of the American soldier to be the policeman of the world.
So I guess it raises the question. I mean, he's right that there are many governments around the world that we have issue with. But are these actions against the Venezuelan government, whether it comes to these oil tankers and trying to undercut their economy that way, or these smaller boats that are carrying drugs to Europe or to the U.S., do you think that this is a national security interest for the United States that is justified?
Yes, I disagree with the senator on this point. I think his framing is inaccurate. Clearly, American citizens are dying. This is a national security issue. You have enemies like the Chinese, Hezbollah, the Iranians, as well as the Russians working through and bolstering this illicit regime, and certainly not recognized by the vast majority of countries in Latin America, that's been allowed for far too long to operate and to basically instill chaos and undermine other legitimate governments throughout the region. So it's in the best interest of Americans' physical security on the streets here at home, as well as their safety from these poisonous drugs, but also a national security issue as we push back against the potential threats from China. So yeah, there's a lot of countries we may disagree with, to coin the phrase from the senator's comment, but quite frankly, the amount and the focus of dangers all kind of at that nexus in Venezuela makes it an inevitable crisis that has to be responded to. And again, I think the pressure on the outside, cutting off the ability of the money that goes in there to prop up that regime, is the right approach. And it's not a declaration of war.
Yeah, it undercuts Iran and China in its own way, and it helps to secure our hemisphere. It looks like the Trump administration is very focused on what is closest to us in terms of the threats that other countries represent to us. Brent Sadler, thank you.